Alright, so my whole reason for making this video is basically to provide a comprehensive roadmap on how to go about Teemo's matchups and kind of matchups in general, how you can like think about it. So this won't go over everything in the matchup, and it won't cover everything because there's just too many things, but it will give you a brief rundown of kind of things to look for in matchups. What makes it a good matchup, what makes it a bad matchup, and what Teemo can do about specific things that each character has. And you'll notice that from watching it, a lot of characters will have like overlapping things. For example, multiple ways to delete projectiles, and each character, several characters have ways to do that, but how they do it is different. So this video should hopefully give you an idea about how to go about coming up with your own ideas and blueprints on how to deal with each matchup. Alright, so we'll start with the Darius matchup. I think overall this is a pretty easy matchup, as Darius doesn't really have good ways to deal with projectiles, and I think that's like the first thing you should always think about when going versus Teemo versus anyone is what anti-projectile moves does he have. So for example, if I set up mushrooms, there's not really much Darius can do about it. Like he can do this, right? Let's set up my mushroom field. And now he's gonna run up, but see how this is punished? Like, you can also, you can just react to him doing this and just do darts. Stuff like that. So I wouldn't say that's very good. You can parry the follow. It's just not very good. I mean, it is, but it's not a very reliable way for Darius to do it. Another thing about Darius is he likes to do stuff like this. But Teemo's kind of like pretty small, right? So it's kind of really hard for him to grab him, so he's got to do it like pretty low to the ground. But Teemo's 2H hits really high up. So a lot of the times, you can just 2H him, where he can't really grab you. So Darius is really susceptible to getting bullied from like slingshots, just throwing mushrooms at him like this. A lot of the things I like to do is you can actually advance neutral with mushrooms, right? So if you do jump and then forward mushroom toss instead of this one, it goes further. You do that again, and now it bounces off that mushroom and advances to him. So you can kind of like slowly approach using this. And this is really hard for Darius to deal with. Another thing that's really tough with him is darts, right? So darts is basically like the cornerstone. You should think about it with every matchup and how every character interacts with it. Darius gets really bullied by jump darts and jump back darts specifically. So like, let's say Darius is like trying to chase me down and he's gonna run up and hit me. But if I'm just like, you know, like you just cannot approach that. It's really hard for him. He can try and call you out by like running up and doing like an air hook. So like almost here, he can do stuff like that, right? But that's a big call out. Especially because you have float. So, like, let's say he sees you running in the air. So, sees you running in the air, he can scoop you out. So, you do have to be careful about where you float him. And understanding, like, the dead zone of this move is, like, pretty important. Stuff like that. Or, like, I'll do stuff like instant air float. Stuff like that. Because what also that's good for is Darius is like to run up and do this. So, you see? So you can like just be kind of annoying. Darius is a pretty easy matchup. He's one of the characters that you can basically go full zoner on. And he has to come to you always. The most important thing to know in this matchup is headless. This move is really good versus Teemo. Because if he sees you do anything, like slingshot, headless. Mushroom, headless. So, the thing about headless is that they are going to use it versus you. So there's two things to know. One, doesn't hit full screen. So you can stand back here and use projectiles and be pretty safe. Two, unless it's charged slingshot, Darius can't really react to you doing something, right? What Darius is doing is he's seeing Teemo do something and then doing it. So what I like to do versus Darius a lot is if I think they're looking to headless me, I'll just do instant air float like that, right? And what this does is they'll see Teemo jump in the air. Oh, he's he's doing mushroom or something, headless. But I did nothing. And now, if you're in a situation where Darius has 0 bars and you have bars, you basically win. Because now he can't parry anything. He basically can't approach you. He can't threaten headless. And you can just go to town doing full zoning. And he cannot stop it. So the things I try to look out for is 1, headless. If he doesn't have meter, you're good. You can go full zoning. Just play around that. You got to play around his special 2s. So it's like these moves. Again, this move's really good at clearing mushrooms if you're not expecting it. Be aware of it. Again, like I said, Darius doesn't really have a way to hit you full screen. So he can like try and clear the mushrooms. But see that? See how it doesn't hit me still? So knowing that spacing is really important. And watch out for air hook. Either one, whether he's anti-airing you with it or doing it to you. Those are the things I'd look out for, but all in all, I think it's a pretty easy matchup. Spam slingshots. Not air slingshot. But like ground ones. Jump at him with darts. Jump back with darts. Just an air float to go over stuff. It's a pretty easy matchup. Another thing I will say is, first, basically every matchup, you want Bush. Most important thing ever on Teemo, or one of them. And the reason it's really good versus Darius is because let's say Darius is all alone and he doesn't have Ekko, and you have a Bush out, Darius now has to play the chase the Teemo game, which is one of the worst games you could be playing. Because what you do as Teemo is if he's by himself, you set up Bush in like the middle of the screen, roughly. You backdash full screen. So like, we'll set up this up, backdash full screen, set up shop. He doesn't have enough to do headless. You're spamming him, and let's say he gets past all this and he just runs, and now you're in the corner. So we'll put this down. Let's just say he somehow cleared this mushroom, and he's running at you. When you see him running at you, you do this, and guess what? Now he has to chase you all over again. You're back at the middle of the screen. He's cornered. You call your assist. You take the Bush. Call a Braum assist hat. Right? Like, he just has to chase you, and he can't, and it's really tough. So make sure to have Bush in play for those 1v2 situations, because if Darius doesn't have an assist, if he doesn't have an assist and he doesn't have meter, he basically can't really catch Teemo by himself, and it's a really big struggle for him. So next is Ekko. Like Darius, I think this is another pretty easy matchup. The reason it's pretty easy, kind of like Darius, is that he does not have a good way to deal with mushrooms. Right? Ekko doesn't really have any anti-projectile moves. So what that means is in order for him to hit the mushrooms, or to deal with them, he has to hit them. He has to run up and hit them. What that means is, guess what? If he's running up and hitting them, you can just hit him. So he can't really roll, like, let's say Ekko wants to like roll through mushrooms, because roll's projectile to you. Well, if they're in a row like this, he can't. He would just roll into the other one. He just doesn't have a good way to deal with it. Same with Time Winder, right? So I have a mushroom field up. This Time Winder doesn't clear the mushrooms. So what Ekko's like to do, and this is something I see, is you have a mushroom field out. They'll do this, take a break. I don't think there's one situation where I think this is good. Overall, I don't think this is good. And the reason I don't think is good is 2 reasons. The first one, again, it clears the mushrooms, but it's not projectile, so you can just hit him. And let's say you're just doing something, like you're setting up a mushroom, and he runs up and he does this, and he can hit you out of it. But even this move, you can always parry the last hit. So even if you block it, you can parry it. Again, I don't think this is very good. There's only one time it's good, and that's if they have freestyle. And the reason it's good if they have freestyle is because they can basically send Ekko in there to clear the mushrooms for his other character. So, like, let's have the mushroom shop, and Ekko wants to approach. He can call like Darius. You see that? Now he can tag to Ekko and pressure it again, right? So that's the only time it's good. Again, though, all the same things I talked about. You can hit Ekko, you can parry it, and if this ever happens, you have to hit the Ekko assist. Because if you don't hit the Ekko assist, right, he's going to do this. Let's say I'm here, I'm floating around, boom, he's behind me now. Now you're screwed. So you always have to make sure that if Ekko does this and he has freestyle, you hit Ekko. So they can't do that. And now they wasted their cooldown. So they're on a 6-second cooldown. They don't have an assist. You have the advantage as Teemo. You have assist advantage, neutral advantage. So it's a pretty good spot. So something to keep in mind. But other than that, Ekko doesn't really have much ways to deal with it. So as we kind of talked about Darius, you can kind of just bully him. Like, he can't really get around mushrooms very well. He can't really get around slingshot. Same with darts. He really struggles to deal with these moves, especially with his like stubby-ish normal. Is your darts, right? Because this basically outranges everything Ekko has. Ekko cannot outrange this move. How he has to deal with it is he has to go around it through jumping. But so he can't use a button to reach it, and if he uses Time Winder, 2 darts delete it. So slingshot delete, like, you see what I like? He just doesn't have the tools to deal with your tools, but you have the tools to deal with him, if that makes sense. So I think Ekko has to take a lot of risk in this matchup. Of course, if he makes you block, you know, he's Ekko and he does rewind and he's really difficult to block. But I think neutral Teemo is pretty dominant in this matchup. I will say that in the air, he's pretty good versus you because he has this move. This move is just massive. I mean, it just hits the holes. If you're near it, it just hits you. You know, it puts you in block stun and then he puts you down. So it's important to be aware of that. But again, overall, I don't think it's too bad. Another thing to be aware of as Teemo is a Teemo specific thing. Yeah. So you see that? You see how the lock kind of delays hit Teemo? So if you're Braum, for example, kind of have to hold that. And the reason this is important is because, in case you aren't aware, projectiles have to be parried high. You can't low parry projectiles. So what Ekko does is he goes low, and then boom, you get hit. So you can't really parry it. I mean, you can, but you have to, like, that's what you'd have to do. You'd have to high parry and then the hit low parry. That's pretty hard. But Teemo, because this doesn't hit, you can actually just low parry Ekko. Again, that's not saying he will do low parry. He'll go low. You're still kind of guessing. But Teemo has a much better situation. And if Ekko's respecting it, you can just mash and take your turn back. So that's just something to be aware of versus Teemo. Another thing that's really good versus Ekko is that he's squishy. He takes a lot of damage. He's not very tanky. So when Ekko's wrong on something or tries to approach neutral and you hit him with something like that, you know, he takes a lot of damage for this. Time Winder's pretty good if you're just like camping in your bush while invisible. Because Time Winder is kind of so active. It's so active, it just will like linger in your bush and you're kind of stuck there. Not saying you shouldn't use it, it's just like, just be aware of it. That exists. But yeah, I don't know. I don't really have much else to say against Ekko. Be aware of his overhead. They're gonna do it. Careful of parrying charge this, because they can rewind it and make your parry win. Right, so if you try to parry that on reaction, then he can rewind it and then you die. So again, just something to keep in mind of. But a lot of this matchup is just Teemo kind of bullying him in neutral. You can afford to do a lot of spam with projectiles. Ekko can't really deal with it. One thing to keep in mind is that Ekko's air movement is pretty tricky, right? So in situations like this, you go to 2H him, and he'll go over it, and then he'll hit you and you die. So in situations like this, I just like to air throw him. Just don't play that game, not interested, opt out of it. Or, again, you can just be Teemo and just run away. Just get out of the situation. You're not interested in that. I'm not saying to, never 2H Ekko, but for example there, right, he used his dash, so I don't have to worry about it. But if he hasn't used his dash, think about air throwing, or maybe just running out of there and getting out of this situation entirely. So now we're going to go on to the Ahri matchup, and I'll be just completely honest with you, this matchup's pretty hard. I don't really have a solid grasp of how to deal with it. I just feel like Ahri has so many good ways to deal with Teemo. One of the really annoying things about Ahri is she does, like, air dash, right? But this is like in a really annoying range where none of your buttons hit her. You know, like you have to 2H her, but then it's just really hard to deal with. So you like air horn, but you don't get a whole lot of. It's just really hard to deal with. Ahri's mobility, and because she's so mobile, right? She just flies over your mushrooms, so you can't zone her really. It's really hard to anti-air her. She's super mobile. She's really good at stalling Teemo because, you know, she can like just jump to the top of the screen, do stuff like that. She can throw darts, she can throw projectiles at you like this, fall assist. So overall, she's pretty difficult to deal with. I think one thing I will say is that if you're ever blocking Ahri, she'll do stuff like this. She can parry the last hit of this. I don't know. It is a thing you can do. And I do think it is good and important to do sometimes, but she can just get out of the situation. Like, Ahri doesn't really have to take it. Why is it dashing forward there? That is so weird. Another thing to keep in mind with Ahri is that she cannot combo off her throw. This is something a lot of characters can do. This is something she can't. So even her orb super doesn't work. She cannot combo off the, which means that if you're ever in a situation against Ahri and you're like, I don't know if she's gonna do strike or throw, most of the time your best option is to take the throw. Obviously, if she has an OTG assist like Vi or Yasuo, he has an OTG assist, but you can just tag into Yasuo and he OTG full combos. Teemo, right? These characters make her throw game a lot scarier, but she needs to have that team and that resource available. So usually, if you're blocking Ahri, take the throw is a lot less scarier than blocking her. And even her block pressure normally is not that scary. The only time Ahri becomes scary is if you block her in the air, like this. Because now she's doing stuff like that. The double overhead in the low, 50-50. That's where it gets scary. Now, something you can do versus Ahri is, let's say she's doing something like this to you. And you can push block. Push block's really good when she's in the air, because it kind of just gets you out of the situation. Again, I don't really know if you can punish her, but it's something you can do. Same with this move, right? It's a pretty good push block point. See how you just have to deal with it. And if you're ever mid-screen versus her, when I see this move, I just retreating guard and just get out of the situation entirely. But this is a matchup where you don't want to be using a lot of projectiles. So that's kind of one of the things you'll notice with Teemo, is that some matchups enable you to use more projectiles than others. I would say that this matchup is not a very good projectile one, just because she can navigate it so well. Now, there's one specific situation I really like setting up projectiles, and that is if you have like full mushrooms out, right? What Ahri's do is they just jump over it like this. But what you can do is if you shoot a regular slingshot, and then actually, so it's up and then the regular, right? What this does is it allows you to have two rocks out. So like I'll shoot up and then I'll do this. And you see how like it kind of covers at where she wants to approach from? So I think this is pretty good versus her. You can do that, boom. Now you have two rocks on the screen, it covers your whole approach, but if you can't get that situation set up, overall I would not really recommend zoning that much. If you have your shop up, she just does this. Then it's all gone, and you're a sad Teemo. One thing to note, if she ever does this super, you gotta parry this super. Because if you don't parry it, then you have to play this game of like it like coming, like let's say I get out of the way, and now it comes back, and I can't do anything. Just parry it, get it out of the way, but just know that if you set up shop, she can just instantly clear it with that, and then run up behind it and approach, and it's just kind of hard. Yes, you're making her spend a meter. That is good overall, but Ahri generates a ton of meter really easily because she gets limit strike off basically every hit. It's her best setup. It's like her best way to end combos. All of her combos lead to it. So this character usually has an abundance of meter and can't afford to just do this every once in a while. So that's something to keep in mind, that if you're playing neutral versus her, she might just send out a random level 1 to clear your wave, your mushrooms, and whatever other zoning shop you have going on. So watch out for that. Don't get hit by it randomly. So I'm Teemo, and I'm doing darts. Not only can she just hit it, but also because darts don't hit in front of you, they hit downwards. A lot of the times, Ahri will be above you when you do this. And so your darts don't hit, and then you win. Again, that's where this comes in. This move's pretty good, but you don't get much for doing it. It blocks in front of you, but you don't get a lot. And then this move's also kind of hard to confirm. And again, not the greatest air-to-air move. I'm not saying it's bad, but Ahri's are better. So that's just something to keep in mind. She's really good at evading your darts. Doing this is really hard versus her because if you whiff and she jumps over it, you die. Jump back's hard because it hits down, so if she approaches you horizontally from the air, she usually hits you and gets a full combo. Right? Because she hits you, does this, does her super. You've all seen it. And then you just take like half your health, gets limit strike, and loops the situation. So, matchup, pretty tough. I will say one thing that is kind of good to know is this move that she does. So like, let's say, Ahri does this, she does this, and she sets this down, right? This is the classic Ahri Oki. Learn to parry this. Again, parry isn't always the option, right? But this is a really good option to represent. Because it makes it so she can't just kind of like do stuff to you. Another thing that's really good versus is rolling. Because as we talked about earlier, she can throw the roll. Yes. But getting thrown by her doesn't kill you. So it's not a bad situation. It's not the best. I mean, you're still cornered, and if she forward throws you, you know, you're hard knocked down mid-screen. She sets up some stuff. But you're not dead. So you get another chance of survival. So other than that though, this matchup, very hard. If possible, it's one of those matchups where you kind of just want to, if you ever get a hit on her, make it count, kill her, lock her down, do some mix. But you don't want to play neutral versus this character. It's very hard. Another thing to know, the Ahri Teemo matchup is the Ahri assist. The reason this is notable is because this move is really good. See, and now she's in my face. So, if you set up shop, even if Ahri isn't on the screen, she has the ability to clear it. So again, zoning is really hard in this matchup. In Akali, Ahri is really good at dealing with it, whether she's on point or not. This even includes when she's dead. So, again, like I said, you're playing a match, you're trying to zone the other character, they call Ahri assist, even if she's dead, clears your whole mushroom wave. So, zoning is not how you win the Ahri matchup. How you win the Ahri matchup is playing better. Akali, I can't really say how good or bad this matchup is because Akali's kind of new, so I'm still kind of learning it and exploring it, but there's a few things I think are important to know. For starters, Akali is really fast. Like really fast. Like that. See? So you can just run past them. So that is something to keep in mind. Again, if she's running past them, just hit her. But I digress. Another thing that's really annoying about Akali, kind of like Ahri, and kind of like Ekko, is that she's got a really tricky air movement, right? So she'll jump over you and then double jump. And what this does is you 2H, it whiffs, and then she punishes you and you die. So keep in mind that if she ever just jumps at you, she has another jump. So be mindful of anti-airing. Kind of like Ekko, you can meet her in the air, you can throw her, right? But 2H is really scary versus her. So keep that in mind. Keep track of her jumps, how many she has. She can also do stuff like this, right? So like, if you want to like meet her air to air, she can just go under, right? So this character is really tricky to deal with in neutral. The saving grace is that if you hit her, she dies. She has not a lot of health. So you can just one-shot her if you have the team for that and the resources available. Another thing to keep in mind is that she has this move. Really good at clearing mushrooms. This is kind of like the kind of like Ekko, right? So what Akalis can do, or what they like to do, is they do that, and then so one thing about Akali, see how it's like programmable? So you can send Akali out there, clear the whole mushrooms, and then tag back into her, and now, kind of like the Ekko situation, you're in kind of like this weird predicament. Again, if she does that, make sure to hit her if possible, and also make sure she's not behind you, because if she has freestyle, she can tag, which she probably will, and then you got to deal with the shenanigans of being in a really bad position. Again, another thing, right? She's got air kunai. This is another really difficult to deal with, but Teemo's 2H is pretty high. But again, we're not recommend 2Hing her all the time because she's got double jumps. Another thing to keep in note is that if you block Akali and she does this move, if she doesn't have an assist, 2H, right? So that punishes. Okay, so what if she does this? Well, one, you're Teemo, so it whiffs. But two, 2H wins. Okay, so now what if she does same side, doesn't go cross up? Lo and behold, 2H wins. Let's say she does this, and then, I don't know, kunai. 2H. You get the idea. She does this, ground teleport. You can lose. So, she has kind of one way to deal with 2H if she does this alone, but then you can just match. Realistically, you could probably react to all of these options and just go accordingly, but yeah, if she does that without an assist, just know that she's taking a pretty big risk doing so. Stuff like this is really tricky to deal with, but you can always parry it. And let's say she doesn't have an assist, or it's like a delayed assist for some reason. You can always just parry the cross up. So if you ever see the puff cloud, just know that you can either 2H or parry it most of the times. And if you can't parry it, that means it's a true block string, which means it's not a cross up. One thing to also note, right? So Akali has this, she can like run in the shroud. When she does this, she's like projectile immune. But from my experience, it's pretty hard for her to projectile through whatever you're doing. Like, see, you can do it. It's like a thing you can do, but I think it's pretty hard. But when she has this, she gets the teleport buff, so like her teleport's just like wicked fast, right? So it can be kind of hard. Akali basically is just really tricky to pin down. Got a lot of tricky movement options. If you hit her, make it count. Make sure to kill her. If not, you're definitely killing her on the next hit. So just try not to lose neutral. Neutral's kind of tough because she is so fast, right? That like Teemo. So like if you're doing this and it whiffs, she can just like run full screen and hit you, or she can whiff punish things from like half screen with this move. So you have to be really careful about where you're placing your buttons, your intentions, because she's really, really fast. I mean, I can't emphasize how fast she is, that it makes playing versus her really tough. So you have to play a lot of preemptively, right? You can't really react to her, so you have to like, I think she's gonna run at me, so like I'll do preemptive this, or preemptive slingshot assist call, or stuff like that. But again, I don't really know how good or bad this matchup is. Akali's still kind of new, but those are just some quick things I've noticed from my experience of playing versus her. Is Blitzcrank, and unlike Ekko and Darius, Blitzcrank falls into like a pretty weird category versus Teemo, in that he is a character that can deal with projectiles. He has Rocket Punch. Pretty good, right? You're setting the shot, he can just like randomly punch you, he can hit your assist, you're mushing by throwing it out, he hits that, he hits darts. Sometimes if you do jump darts at him, he deletes the jump darts, and then you can die. But as you can kind of see, even though he has a really good anti-projectile move that gives a lot of zoners trouble, he doesn't really give Teemo that much trouble. And there's for one reason for that. This move, see that? Yeah, see how far it hits? It's not very far. Well, maybe this far, but it doesn't hit full screen. This is important, meaning one, if you're full screen, okay, dude, sure, you can do that all you want, but it literally will not amount to anything. You can slowly try and approach with mushrooms, and if they aren't constantly doing that, well, your mushrooms will get close. Two, because he has to do it from so far, you can just parry it. And if you parry it, you can just run up, get a combo. Right. So, using this move is good. It's pretty hard for him. And this is kind of where the next thing comes in. So, Blitzcrank basically has to use this move. He just has to, because he has to get rid of your projectiles you're putting on the screen. Everything. But this is what you do. So this is what you can do, right? So I'll throw a mushroom in. You bait him. You bait him to use this move, and then on a read, like you figure out his timings, when they like to do it. And then on a read, you just jump over it. Again, like I talked about, you can parry this move. So this is basically what I do. I go to a range where I'm like pretty far. You never want to be close to Blitz, right? Because you also don't want to be in range of this move. But this move follows the same thing. You kind of just go to a range where he can't reach you, and then you force him to use this move, and then you either jump over it or parry it on reaction. And then he can't use that move, but then you can just set up shot. You know, like this is a hard matchup for Blitz. Teemo bullies Blitz, but if you don't jump over this move and you don't parry, this matchup can be a total pain. Just because it's really hard for you to do your thing, and Blitzcrank does a lot of damage. And you can do stuff like Wrecking Ball assist, just like, you know, cheese out of neutral. But again, all the things we talked about, it's just, this is a really hard matchup for Blitz, because he has to use his rocket punches in order to deal with Teemo neutral in the first place. But if you're full screen, he can't hit you, and if he's doing it, he risks getting jumped or parried on and dying. Another thing that's really important to know in this matchup is that this Blitz assist is like really annoying. Like, it's really good. It's a really good assist, unless you know the secret to this assist, and that is you can retreating guard it. So if you ever see this assist, you block it, just retreating guard it, and then now what? Because if you don't retreating guard this assist is like so unbelievably annoying to deal with if you don't retreating guard this assist. So do it. You have to do it. That's not an option. You have to retreating guard the assist. But again, if you do that, it makes it really not as good. Blitz also has rocket grab. This is kind of like Darius air hug, right? Where it's really good, but there's kind of like, you see, there's like a pretty big dead zone. See that? You can kind of do a little bit of air footsies with Blitz. Like, you can like go into his grab range, go out, make a whiff. And then if he's delaying it, you can just like fly over him. And another thing you'll see Blitz do a lot is you can do like stuff like that, and they'll just like send this on a read, and then you just run up and hit them. Right, so this matchup kind of boils down to Teemo controls the entire pace of the neutral game in this matchup. Like, Blitz just has to chase Teemo, Blitz has to come to Teemo, but Blitz also has to use these risky moves in order to get in on Teemo. He can't just approach Teemo, kind of like Ahri, or navigate his moves. So he always has to take a risk. There's always some risk involved with Blitz. If he gets in close, yes, you're dead, right? Like, it's a really bad spot to be in. His command grab does a ton of damage to Teemo, and it only takes a few of these for them to add up. Like, that doesn't look like a lot, right? But then he incorporates this super on top. Now you're a half health, and if he does it again, you're dead. Probably, if he has double down, which they sometimes do. So I wouldn't really recommend using darts versus him that much, because again, this move just deletes it. It just completely goes through darts. How you test this move? Parry or jump over it. Another thing about Blitz is if you're ever in the corner versus Blitz and he has armor, he's gonna do this, right? He's gonna grab you, because that's kind of what his character does. See, so if you're ever versus Blitz in the corner and he has armor, usually he'll do this on a knockdown attack. If you jump it, they'll just kind of hold it like this, and if you come down with a button, he'll grab you. So Teemo is kind of a little privileged. Not a little, he's pretty privileged because he has a multi-hit. But that doesn't mean this won't happen. So if you ever read Blitz trying to grab you on wake up, jump forward. Just jump forward. Don't even like play the game of like, am I gonna land in time for him to get grabbed, or am I gonna just, if you think he's gonna throw you on wake up and he has armor, jump forward. Because neutral jump can get, your hit can get armored, and then you can get thrown, and then you're kind of in the situation even though you did the right thing. Another thing versus Blitz is, let's say he's got his armor on. Let's set him to do command grab here. Right, so this is what happens. So I'll call it like Braum. He'll hit me out of my butt. And even if the button hits him, he'll armor it. So if your assist ever makes contact with an armored Blitz, just be really careful about tagging to that character, because you might just be asking to get grabbed. Pay attention to his armor. His armor makes also dealing with mushrooms a lot better, because now he can grab through them, whereas if he doesn't have armor, you can't grab him. Right, we set up our shop, he doesn't go through them all. And so when you're camping Blitzcrank from back here, you could be like, but wait, what if he starts cranking it? Just shoot him. Or if you see him doing it, just kind of run at him. Like, quit that. He wants to charge up, run at him. You kind of, again, Blitz is basically always on the back foot of this matchup. Yes, he can rob you if he hits you because he does a lot of damage. And in the corner, he becomes really scary. But you basically completely dictate the entire pace of this matchup so long as you do the two things we talked about. You parry S2, you jump S2. Keep those in mind. So Braum is kind of like Blitz in that the entire matchup is playing around charge S2. That move, right? The reason this move, again, like we talked about earlier in the video, when you're fighting a character, think about what do they have that is anti-projectile move. For Braum, it's charge S2. And like Blitz again, it's going to be the same thing. What you want to do is use a little stuff. You bait him out, and then you jump over it. Or you bait him out, you make it look tempting. Like, ooh, dude, look Braum, you know you want to charge S2 me. And then you parry it. Now you go to town. Right, so Braum's really similar in that regard to Blitz, is that the whole matchup is basically playing around that. I will say, Teemo is not the best at dealing with shield assist, but one thing Teemo is pretty good at is, if Teemo throws himself into the assist, right, it's not the worst, but he can't really break the ice. But what he can do is just not interact with him. So for example, he blocks this or he blocks this, like, you know, I'm far away. I'm not scared for my life. It's only really scary when he does shield plus assist, which is scary for everyone. And that's just kind of Braum in general, right? So how you play around that is depending on the assist, and can't really go into that there just because there's so many things. But for Braum himself, those are the two main ones. One thing to keep in mind is that in the corner, if Braum has ice, they will do this, right? They're gonna do his overhead, and they're gonna do this move. This move is a low. Keep that in mind. Braum's also plus after it. But if you block this, just jump. Braum could just do nothing after his overhead, but you know, you jump out and you're out of the situation entirely. So that's something to be mindful of. You could also just parry it, but it's multi-hit. Would not recommend parrying it. And again, this move, kind of like Darius Apprehend, in case you aren't aware, locks you out of system mechanics. See, so I was trying to retreating guard there. I couldn't. Can't push block. You see my attack assist. You can only do it at the very end of it, but you can't do it during it. So keep that in mind. That move locks you out of your defensive measures. One thing Braum's also like to do is this move, right? This move in neutral is really good, really annoying, clears everything. It's another move you should really learn to parry, but Teemo overall doesn't... Like, it's really good to get Teemo out of the sky, like swat him out of the air, but you can just float cancel, block it on reaction. Another thing to keep in mind is that, so in this situation, right, this is really hard to deal with for a lot of the cats. And Teemo has a good answer, but not a great one. So you can do this, and you break it, which is good, and then you can combo it into the super. That's also good. The issue is, it doesn't break his ice. So Teemo is good at dealing with ice in the sense that you can just outspace him with darts and break the ice and hit him. But you can't get rid of his ice very well. Another thing that's also really important to know on Braum is, let's say he's jumping at you. It's really important against Braum to know a combo that breaks his ice really quickly. The reason this is important is if I'm hitting him, you can do something like this, break his ice, right? Because if you're doing a Teemo B&B versus Braum, he doesn't touch the ground. So this whole time, his ice isn't broken. Not broken, not broken, now it's broken. So that whole time, if he bursted, I wouldn't break his ice. So it's really important to know how to break his ice quickly and efficiently. Because the last thing you want to do is get bursted by Braum into having to deal with him on ice. So make sure you have a route that breaks his ice really fast. This just goes kind of for all characters so he can't burst it. Because your mushrooms, I mean, your super doesn't. The thing is, this move is pretty good, right? You can use this in neutral, but Braum can't just tank it, as you could probably imagine. So, something to keep in mind with that. Also, if Braum does this super, he's trying to like hit you for some reason, and you react with this, you just get hit. So don't do that. Again, if you see this assist, your best plan is to just parry it or just block it and go from there. Like Darius, Braum is really susceptible to playing Chase the Teemo. You put a bush down, you run full screen, he doesn't. We'll have to set to do this move, right? So you have push out, backdash full screen, you have this out, come, and then you just dash away. And then he's got to place Teemo again. You don't want to contest this move because it's super armored and, again, deletes projectiles, so you've got to be careful when using jump darts. But usually this move isn't active enough to go through all the darts. It's pretty space independent, but yeah. So that's basically the Braum matchup, is play around charge S2 and be aware of your options for shield assist. This, unfortunately, like I said, can't really go into. There's kind of too many things to say for that. But also don't get grabbed by Braum. You get hit by this command grab, you're dead. So again, keep that in mind. Braum, like Ahri, can't really combo off his throw. He can only do this. Off regular throw. So off regular throw, he can do this. This move OTGs. He can also do this move. That gets him ice. And now that's really important. So one thing you might not know about Braum is if he does this to you, you should always forward roll this. And the reason is, you see, he can't throw punish you for doing this. He can throw you, but it's not a punish. So if you ever get hit by this move in the corner, OTGs with that. Just don't stay in the corner if you don't have to. You know? But yeah, overall, Braum kind of gets bullied on offense. I mean, on defense too, unless he does shield stuff. But his buttons are not like the best at dealing with Teemo, and his anti-air is also like kind of weird. So his anti-air is weird in that it does not hit very high up, but what it does do is it makes it so, like, let's say you're Teemo and you're like floating above him, you're trying to make his 2H whiff. Because it hits behind him, a lot of the times he can just like clip you at the end of his foot, like that. See, most characters that would whiff on, their 2H would just whiff and then you punish them, but Braum doesn't because his 2H goes all the way back behind his foot. So again, something to keep in mind, but you can usually pretty easily just bully Braum neutral. Is truly a bad matchup. This matchup is so hard, and that I can't. Giving advice for this matchup is pretty tough, just because it's just hard. You know, if you're like, why do I always lose to Caitlyn? It's because it's just a hard matchup, and a lot of times you'd be like, what do I do? And the answer is probably like, you can't really do much realistically. It's one of those matchups that I play 2x assist with a forward advancing assist, right? So this is how I play neutral. 2x, 2x, because as Teemo, it's really tough. The reason it's tough, one, Caitlyn's gunshots, right? Just, she outzones you, can't do darts. Any of these hit, she can do S1 super. You can take a ton of damage from that. And dealing with gunshots isn't easy, right? Because you can parry it. You can parry the second hit, but you have to be really careful because she can just charge it. You have to like, right, your parry will whiff, so it's really hard to play around that. Your best bet in this matchup is to use your air movement, right? So Caitlyn will jump in the air, right? She can do like shot, or she can do bola. Your best bet as Teemo is to see bola is really hard to deal with. Cover's really annoying range for you, aka the air. It's kind of where you want to be, so you can't. Floating over this is really hard. And if she's in the air shooting, your best bet is truly just to use your air movement and try and make her shots whiff. So like, if she's on the ground and she's trying to shoot me, and I'm up here, she's trying to shoot me. You want to make her shot whiff by like falling early or something and punishing her that way. She's punished. But basically, this whole matchup is I basically am floating around, waiting and trying to punish her with my assist, because Teemo can't really approach Caitlyn. It's really hard. Bola is really annoying to deal with, as we talked about. Trap is also pretty annoying to deal with. For the same reasons that we talked about, Teemo doesn't have the greatest anti-projectile stuff, so you have to hit the trap. But in hitting the trap, you're vulnerable to getting punished for it. So, note about this matchup is, if you're ever in a situation where it's Teemo or your assist character, and you have to pick who dies, always make Teemo die first, because doing this matchup by yourself is like so impossibly hard. It is so difficult. But even dying isn't that great, because let's say Teemo is dead. That's right, Teemo died. RIP Teemo. And now it's Braum. Like Ahri, Caitlyn is really good at dealing with Teemo's super assist. Teemo's super assist is really good. Oh. It's a really good super assist. It covers the whole screen, stays on hand, the whole shebang. But Caitlyn can just kind of shoot him or use bola. So even when Teemo's dead, you still can't really use his super assist very well. Very hard matchup, very annoying. It's one of those matchups where Teemo has to chase Caitlyn, right? So Teemo always has to go to Caitlyn because Teemo can't win the zoning war, which makes this matchup super brutal because Teemo wants you to come to him. But if you have to go to someone, it's really hard. And I know I sound like a broken record, but it's just that, like, she just outzones you in every way. So your zoning tools that are good versus other characters are not good versus her because, like I said, she can deal with it really well. She's got both. She's got this super that confirms off every hit, does a ton of damage. She can also use this move, which is really hard to deal with. You see that? You see it? It's just a hard move to deal with. So how do you deal with this move? I like to just float around it, but then she throws a bola and yeah. Neutral, really tough. Recommend navigating it with your assist character. Depending on your assist, it'll depend, right? So you might be thinking, well, would this be a matchup where I play Braum Teemo? So is this a matchup where you want Braum point? And the answer to that, I think, is no. The reason is because This is not very useful. Teemo's assist is not very useful versus Caitlyn, and Braum has to get it. While I think Braum is good versus Caitlyn, I think neutral is way easier for Teemo to stall around and make Braum do all the work with 2x. If you're not playing 2x, I'm not sure. You're going to need to look into what you can do about Caitlyn and how to get around her zoning. Illaoi is a matchup that, for the longest time, I was like, wow, this matchup feels terrible. I don't know how to deal with it. And the reason is because she just doesn't. This move deletes all projectiles. It deletes darts, it deletes mushrooms. It's like, wow, this move is so annoying to deal with. How are you supposed to deal with it as Teemo? And how you deal with it is like we've established with other characters. You bait her to use it. You want her to use this move. That's what you want. Because guess what? When she does that move, she's stuck doing that move. Illaoi has really good anti-mushroom countermeasures, right? She has that move that can delete them, and she also has, kind of like Ahri, she has a really good back assist. Just clears all the mushrooms. Illaoi can do this move by herself, but it's just a little susceptible. But so yeah, basically this matchup boils down, from my experience, is to make her use this move and then jump over it and kill her for it. And the thing about that is that, like Blitzcrank, she actually has to use this move. Because if you don't use that move, she can't really get it. Now, one thing that Illaoi players seem really confident on the fact is that they can just do this over and over again. And like for some reason they think that like this is a good way to deal with Teemo. It's not. One, if you hit it, you can just hit it and then slingshot. Two, you can just jump over it like we've talked about and kill her for it, right? So like you're setting up mushrooms. Ooh. So what they try to do is they try to like hit you while you're doing something like that. But then you can just air tech and go back to floating. If they do it again, it whiffs. And if they do, they'll do stuff like that, right? So if you get hit by this move, tech float, you don't get hit by that. So the risk reward is not very good on Illaoi doing that. It's just kind of more annoying as Teemo. You can also parry it. It's a really good option. Just be careful because she doesn't charge it, it won't track to you. So like if I'm here, you see how it just whiffs. But yeah, so if Illaois are spamming that move versus you, her down S2, just jump at her. This move is like truly like so, it takes so long. Like you can react to her doing that. You see that? Hit punish. If you play Illaoi, I promise you, this is not good versus Teemo. It's really not. It's more of a minor inconvenience, but if Teemo does the right counterplay, you literally die for it. Another thing with Illaoi is that you probably are aware that Seize is a really obnoxious move. Right, so she'll do stuff like this. She does Seize, and then if you jump the Seize, she does stuff like that. The Seize recovers so fast that if you jump it, you're still in block stuff. What do you do about this? Typically forward jump. If you forward jump, this is like she's doing this. Okay, so this is assuming they're reacting, right? So they'll do Seize. They see you jump, they'll do this. Right. So if you ever read Seize, do a forward jump. Don't jump don't neutral jump. Don't jump back. You won't get out of the situation. You'll block that, and you're in the same situation all over again. And speaking of this move is really good and really susceptible at the same time. The reason this move's really good because this float spot, she hits. So this is a really common area Teemo wants to float, like right here. The reason for this is like 2H's whiff. You can't really hit him. He's pretty close to you. So like if I see you whiff, I can just cancel the float and fall and punish you. But Illaoi can hit you from all the way up here. The trick though, to deal with this move, is that you have to know the dead zones. You can do some, again, like we've talked about, you can do some air footsie. Go into a range, go out of the range. Make it whiff. You can also do float cancels to like make the move whiff. So like for example, I'll do stuff like that. Right, so now she tries to anti-air me, I cancel the float, and I hit her. This move is really good versus Teemo. It's a really good like swat you out of the air, and if a counter hits you, you fall all the way to the ground. She gets a big combo. So you have to be very mindful of this move. But just know that you can bait it out, kind of like Darius. You can do instant air float. Instant air float dart, pretty good. Pretty hard to deal with. And same this move. This move is super. I recommend air throwing it because it'll make a 2H whiff and then you get hit. Parrying it's kind of hard. Again, wouldn't recommend it. Air throw. I personally just don't participate in that game. I just kind of run away from it. I'm not interested. It's really annoying to deal with, but I also kind of have a Braum issue. Oh my god, that's still... Yeah, that move's really annoying. So if you feel like that move's scrubby and annoying and you're frustrated that you lose to it, you're very validated for that because it's really annoying and scrubby. Like we talked about, Illaoi's back S1. This move's really good at dealing with mushrooms, but like kind of the moral of the story versus a lot of characters, it's susceptible to jumps. So Illaoi is basically like... So you can stall Illaoi out, but you can't stall her out in the same way you can like a Darius and Ekko, right? Because she will eventually get to you. So what you have to do is you have to stall her enough. So like she's doing this. See, you have to stall her enough to make her use one of her anti-projectile moves, to which you can then not use a projectile, bait her into using it, and kill her for it. And that's pretty much how I find success in the Illaoi matchup. So the Jinx matchup. Just so as a rule of thumb with Teemo, Teemo loses to basically all the zoners in this game, which is like 2. But Jinx and Caitlyn are probably some of his worst matchups. The reason Jinx is bad is like Caitlyn. She kind of just outzones you. She does what you want to do, but better. But there's a catch to this. I don't think this matchup is as bad as Caitlyn. That's for one reason. Let's say you're both like full screen doing zoning wars. If Jinx is not set up, you can actually slingshot war her and win. And you see that? You see how it goes under the rocket and hits her? Like that. So you can actually win the zoning war against Jinx full screen, but there's certain conditions where you don't. 1, if she gets set up. And the reason is, if she gets set up, your slingshot no longer beats this. Because there's multi-hit, right? So there's more of them. One thing you can do is you can slingshot her like that, right? To stop her from setting up. You have to do that, because if she sets up, neutral kind of ends for you. Because what she does is she'll do like this move, and then she'll like shoot this, and then she sets up Clappy and does it again. Or she sets up Chompers and does it again. And she can basically cycle her zoning patterns to make it really hard for you to approach. The second time you cannot outzone Jinx is if she has Big Zap, right? So then you try to zone Jinx, like she's doing Rocket, and you're like, I'm gonna get with that. She just does Big Zap and hits you. You see how I said punish? You have to respect. So when you're fighting Jinx, you have to pay attention to Big Zap. What you do about Big Zap, I really recommend parrying this move. Versus Jinx, you kind of have to parry your way in. Because if you don't parry her projectiles, you basically will never get in. You'll just constantly be getting sent back. You'll take a lot of chip damage. It's really no good. So you want to parry rockets, you want to parry Big Zap. Really pay attention to Big Zap. And the third time you can't win the zoning war is if Jinx has 1 bar of meter, which is like basically a lot. Because shoot him if you got him, he can react to anything you do and hit you with it. It's kind of like Darius. It's like Darius headless, but like way better. One thing to know about shoot him if you got him though, is that if she does shoot him if you got him and she tries to set up, Don't let her do this. You get hit by shoot him if you got him. Forward roll. If she tries to set up, hit her. Very important you do that so she doesn't just set up. Because like we established, what happens is shoot him if you got him, sets up, GG. Now neutral is going to be a total pain to navigate as Teemo. Like Jinx, like Caitlyn, you can try and use your air movement to like fake her out and make her whiff. But the issue is Jinx has jump rockets, which cover this like really annoying area where Teemo likes to flow. So you can't. So you can just cover the screen. It makes it really hard to approach for Teemo. So how I play this is I basically just slingshot her to death, unless one of those three prerequisites are in play, and those are if she has a trap set up, if she has big zap up, or if she has super meter. Now the super meter one comes with a caveat. The caveat is that if we're both full screen and both full health and we have 1 bar of meter, I am so down for her to level 1 me. And I lose health, sure, but now I have the meter advantage, which is really good. Because if you don't have the meter, you can't parry anymore, which makes neutral even harder, and it's just bad. So I am willing to trade my health for 1 bar of her meter sometimes if I have the health to afford it, because it just makes things a lot easier to navigate. But like Caitlyn, a lot of this matchup is basically just me doing 2x assists and playing neutral that way. This matchup, really hard. So the Vi matchup. This matchup is also pretty hard. And the reason it's hard is because Vi, if we think about things we talked about earlier, what anti-projectile tools does Vi have? The answer is a lot. And she has sway. Most importantly, she's got sway. Right, so you try and hit her with a projectile, she goes through it, punches you in the face. You're doing slingshot, she reacts to you doing slingshot, punches you in the face, full combo. Right, so if that move hits, she can go into her electrics full combo. So this is a matchup where I would strongly advise you to like basically never use slingshot. Because if you use slingshot, she can just sway at you. You have to use slingshot plus like assist. But even that is kind of scary. I would not really recommend it a whole lot. Like other characters, you can make Vi so unlike other characters, if you have like a mushroom field out and you want to hit Vi, well, your dart is a projectile. So you lose because she can go through it, because she's projectile invul. So it's really hard to check her from clearing it. Not to mention that she can just bulldoze her way through. You know, she can just call an assist, S1, right? You can do stuff like that. So like with this team, for example, I would do would do S1, Jinx assist. This is really hard to deal with. You can abuse float versus Vi. So one of Vi's weaknesses is that her anti-airs aren't great. Like her 2H, this does not hit high at all. The catch is she has this move. This move is really good versus Teemo. But if you notice, this move hits really high up, like the entire way up high. But what this move has in vertical, it lacks horizontally, right? So when you're floating versus Vi, you want to be like here. You don't want to be directly above Vi. So a lot of characters you like to be directly above. This makes their 2H whiff, or sometimes you can like cross them up and they don't get like 2H, or 2H goes the wrong way, right? Like we've all seen that. 2H goes the wrong way, you go over on that side, you hit them. But Vi can just not play that game. You get counter hit, you fall all the way down. So the trick with Vi is to stay out of that range. You can float, and I think floating is really good versus her, but you have to be mindful to not be directly above her. For the same reasons that we talked about with sway being good, it also is really good versus jump and forward darts. Now, the catch is, assuming you have an assist that's not a projectile, assist plus darts is still really good versus Vi. Right? Because let's say she's doing this. It's so bad. You can do stuff like that, hit her with, I know she just swayed back into it, but it can cross up like that and hit her. So darts plus assist is really good, but this matchup is kind of like, if you're doing something, make sure you have an assist ready to bail you out just in case, because she's really good at navigating all of your buttons and all your projectiles. And it's just a pretty hard matchup overall, because her buttons are like, right, like if she's just like boxing you with this, Teemo can really only fight back using his 5M, which is good. Like, don't get me wrong, his 5M is good, but you just got to be careful, because if you do 5M, if I can do this, if you whiff, like, anytime on reaction and hit you. Another thing you have to be really careful of, like Jinx, she has this super. So, if you're ever full screen and you're like, I'm going to do this for Vi, she just does this. It hits her though, so keep that in mind. If you have more health than her and she only has 1 HP, you can actually do that to bait them into kill themselves, but like don't tell the Vi players that. Another thing is, let's say you're trying to chip them, and you want to use this move, she can just blow right through it. Again, but since it's Teemo, you can just fly up like this, but you're still, you know, negative 62, so it's an entire second. So no, I would advise against Slingshot. I would just kind of advise against projectiles in general, because she's really good at dealing with them, unless you like making her use her S1. Because her S1 now is like way easier to hit. So for example, she's doing stuff like, she's doing stuff like this. Like you can have this out. You see that? You can hit her pretty far now. So it does make it a little easier. But again, this is a matchup you want to use your assists a lot and help navigate neutral. Because Vi has all the tools she needs to deal with your kit. And if Vi is paired with Caitlyn or with Jinx, good luck, man. That matchup, that's going to be a really tough game. Because now you lose to both characters instead of one. Another thing with the Vi sway, right? Checking this move as Teemo is so hard, because you can't use darts. But even when you use 5M to try and check it, if you mistime it, she just goes behind it, and then you die. So hitting this move is really tough. That actually looks pretty good. Probably super space independent though. Yeah, see, because that whiffs. I guess you gotta time it. Yeah, that might not be bad. But yeah, be careful, because if you do 5M and you do it wrong, you just die. Really hard move to deal with. Warwick is another character that is really good at dealing with projectiles, but he's not as good at dealing with them the same way other characters are, right? So his main way to deal with it is just run, his S1. The move that has his overhead, right? So if you have mushrooms out, you can just run over it. But, kind of, again, like we've talked about, see him running at you, just check him. Where this gets really annoying is that if he does this, see how it goes over your 5M? So when you try to check him, sometimes he'll just jump over it, and it's really annoying. You can use 2H, 5H to like make it more consistent. You can also just do that if you wanted. I wouldn't recommend 2Hing it. It's like pretty slow. It also doesn't, go as far as 5H, but stopping this move can be really annoying. One thing to note about this move is that it's actually unsafe to Teemo's 2L like that. So if you ever block this move, do that. Most of the time, your 2L will connect, but if it doesn't, you can always just do a throw. This is really good, because Teemo can do this, and then now he gets his instant overhead, 50-50, go lower that, so that's pretty good. This move is definitely not what it used to be, but it's still really annoying to check as Teemo sometimes. Another thing that's really annoying about Warwick, he's got a lot of tricky, I guess he's just got a lot of tricky movement, because he has like the demon flip, right? He's got the dive kick, and sometimes that can go through you, but I try to just 2H it, but just kind of get out of the way. If you're ever blocking Warwick's demon flip shenanigans, I wouldn't recommend 2H. I mean, you can 2H, but this move can grab you at a 2H. If you're late, right, like that. So this is what I do. I either air throw him, or like we talked about, you just kind of get out of the situation entirely. If he wants to do something like this, right, this is like a cross up. Again, you can 2H it, you can air throw it, but honestly, I'm out of here. I'm not interested. I see that, I'm jumping out. I forget which way is the best jumper back. But you can also just jump out and avoid the situation entirely. So a lot of this matchup is basically just surviving Warwick throwing himself at you. But thankfully, If he throws himself at you and is wrong and you're right, you can do a ton of damage and get into a really good position. One thing to also keep in mind with Warwick is that he has, where's this move? He's got his DP, right? So kind of like Vi, float is pretty, it's not bad versus him, but you have to be aware of the dead zones, of like where he can DP you or not. Because again, it is a one button game, right? So if you cross up and he delays it, he can just reverse input it. Or you can fly over it like that. Again, not to say to never float at him, but just be cognizant of like, because if you want to like jump darts him, he just does that and then you can be in a pretty bad spot. And again, that's also his assist, right? So even if Warwick's not on point, he can still threaten float. But I think overall, it's not too bad. This move also, by the way, in case you don't know, this move hits like wicked high. Like, I mean, like if you're trying to float above Warwick, there's like a good chance that this move just might hit you. Like, look at that. And you see this? He's +7. So the higher you block this move, the more plus he is. So that's why I would not recommend jumping versus Warwick if you think he's going to do like an overhead. Or, I mean, you can react to him doing the overhead now. So I wouldn't recommend jumping a lot. Like, I wouldn't recommend chicken blocking versus Warwick a lot. Just because if you block that overhead, he's going to be plus, where you could just block it like that and get your turn back. Yes, he can call an assist, but that's game games. He's also got this move. This move's really annoying. But again, so he can do this on like reaction to like you. Like let's say I'm doing like slingshot, right? He can like react, or I do mushroom. He can react. This move's instant. Goes everywhere on the screen. But like I showed earlier, in case you're not aware, you can just 2H this on the flash. Right. So something to keep in mind. He gets like he's got like really good strike throw. Because his throw just does a lot of damage. God, where is it? It's forward as too, right? Yeah. Right, he can do stuff like this, and then he goes into Rekka and super, whatever. So I guess. Right, he does stuff like this. There's pretty good reward off a throw. Strike will do roughly the same, maybe more depending on his resources. So keep that in mind. He's got really good stagger pressure still. Definitely not as good as it used to be because of the overhead nerf. So in this matchup, I would strongly advise just like understanding Demon Flip and his options out of it. Getting used to punishing this with your 2L and not jumping too much versus Warwick because of his DP. And also, this is a matchup where, like a lot of the ones we talked about, he kind of has to use this move. Because if he doesn't use this move, he like can't do anything versus Teemo. But just keep that in mind. That he will use this move against you, and that you just have to be ready to deal with it accordingly. But you can do stuff like that too, right? So even though the move is projectile invincible, if you stand in your mushrooms like this, he can't do it to you now. Because if you just block, see, the mushrooms hit him before he even hits you. I can actually just sit here and crouch. See that? I don't even need to worry about getting hit. So use your mushrooms to your safety. Yes, he can run through them, but you can actually use that to your advantage. Same thing with Burning Bush. You can just kind of run through it. But again, Bush is so active in a big wall of fire that you can camp in it, and it really dissuades him from approaching you. So Bush can give you like a couple seconds to like really get going. It makes it so he can't approach you very easily, and you can start getting shop set up. Overall, I think this matchup's, I don't think it's bad. I just think it's kind of really annoying. Because Warwick is annoying, and people play him like feral animals. So Yasuo. This matchup is really annoying. I'm not sure who wins this matchup though. Because both characters are insanely good at stalling the other one out. What I mean by that is you've probably seen it. Yasuo goes full screen, does wind wall. Right? Wind wall blocks all projectiles. But Teemo, if you have the trajectory, see that? You can actually, if he does wind wall and he's camping behind it, you can actually angle it over it like that. It's a little tricky, but it's definitely something I would get used to doing. So what they do is they'll set up wind wall and they'll do stuff like this. But if you super jump to the top of the screen, do float, and then do this, guess what? This thing won't hit you. You see him do it? Alright. You see this? I see him do it, now I do slingshot. And what this does is it achieves nothing. And that's kind of what I'm getting at, is that like both characters are really good at stalling the other character out. So how this matchup goes is that whoever has a health lead is usually in the advantage. Because if I have the health lead, Yasuo can't just sit there and go win wall, win wall, win wall, because, well, that won't achieve anything, and I'll just sit here with full health, and I'll just win the game off timeout. But if he has the most HP, that's where this matchup can get really annoying. Because now you have to approach win wall. And approaching win wall is super difficult. So there's a few things you can do about it. One, like we talked about slingshot. He's got this move. Parrying it is super tough. It's possible. But I like to float a lot versus this, right? So what I do is I basically will like float like this, slowly. And I'll slowly corner him with that. You don't want to rush in there against Yasuo. But you do have to play around his wind wall cooldown. Now they nerfed his wind wall, so he can't just set it up right after it goes away. So if he uses his wind wall, you have like a couple seconds of like where you can really approach him without having to worry about it. He also will do this. We'll jump in the air and cut this like that. You can float over it. It's honestly, it's just kind of hard to deal with, but you can float over it. But he can be waiting for you. But if he does tornado, just keep that in mind. You kind of have to. It's a matchup that requires a lot of patience. You really don't want to run into Yasuo or rush it, because it's kind of what he wants. You kind of want to like force him into a bad situation or force him to make a mistake that you can capitalize on. Another thing that's important to Yasuo is he's got this move, right? So this move, just parry it. You have to parry this move, because if you don't parry this move, they're just gonna do it, and it's super annoying. And if you block it, you don't guarantee get a punish, because then they stance cancel out of it and dash away. So this move is really important to parry. Now, piece of advice I'll give is that most Yasuos will just do this move, because people aren't blocking it online. So when I'm blocking Yasuo, I put a lot of mental stack into blocking this move. Last patch, it wasn't like that. But the reason I'm able to do that now is because hop got nerfed, right? So his stance hop got nerfed. Meaning that if I block this move, I'm not getting 50-50'd. There's only one overhead. So what you can do is you can look for the cross up. And if you don't see it, you can block hop. You can't punish hop. Like if you're looking for hop, you can punish it. But you might not be able to punish it, but you can block it. And if you block it, you're not getting 50-50'd anymore like you used to, right? So before it was really hard to split your mental stack between these two things, because like you have to look for cross up, but also if he does hop, he gets 50-50, and then when you're looking for hop, he does cross up, and then when you're looking for, it's just hard. So I look for cross up most of the time, but that's just because a lot of Yasuo players just kind of do it and they're not expecting someone to parry it. And you really want to make sure you do, because my team is Braum Teemo, and Yasuo really destroys Braum. So I don't want to play neutral for this character. I want him dead just because so I can play my other character. Another thing about Yasuo is that, back to wind wall, stab, this does not clear your mushrooms. That's very good. So Yasuo isn't the best at clearing your mushrooms. He has ways to deal with it, and we'll get to that, but so I have my mushrooms up. See, he can dash through it. But while he is projectile immune while doing this, a lot of Lega can like buy can also just cross up and miss it. But unlike Vi, you're usually not like close enough for him to just like full screen sway into you. So if you see him doing this, just check him. But a lot of the time I'm just kind of floating in the air with Yasuo. He's got this like really good 2H. But you can bait it out doing stuff like that. But he also has stance 2H. This move is super important to understand the dead zones. Because this move is so good at swatting Teemo out. So, like we've talked about it before, so now let's go back. Use all this stuff we have. So, Yasuo sets up wind wall. I like to jump over his wind wall when he does tornado. So what they do is they'll do this, and then they'll do this to stop me from jumping over wind wall, right? Boom. They hit me. So what you can do is do the wind wall. You can try and bait them into using this move and making it win. Because they kind of have to do it on a read. I mean, not really. They can just react. But you can do stuff like that, you know. While you can't punish him, you do gain space because he's negative. So, a lot of this matchup, like I said, you have to play this matchup pretty slow and pretty carefully. But if you do that and you just understand his options and how they interact with yours, the matchup isn't too bad. Kind of back to the stance H, by the way. That's how he clears your mushrooms. He just does that. But, right, if he's doing stance H, he's susceptible to getting jumped on. But he can do that. So unlike the Illaoi and Blitz, right, he has a really good way of stopping you from jumping on him and punishing that. Again, this is why the matchup a lot is like me jumping in the air, float, block, and just like kind of slowly approaching him that way. It's like a pretty big move. It's really high, but this move is like pretty punishable. You can like whip punish this move pretty reliably. Another move you have to watch out for is this. Is 2S. Because this move like hits really far. But 2S loses to like instant float shenanigans. So if you think they're gonna approach with that, it's super safe, ginormous. You can float over it like that. And yeah, so a lot of the matchup, like I've said, is just knowing his tools and playing around them and understanding how they interact with your characters. Play this matchup slow, play it smart, don't rush in, and you should be fine. Honestly, a lot of the times the Yasuo player might just get bored and then try and come to you, and that's kind of what you want. So, another thing, though, to keep in mind with Yasuo is his assist is so good versus mushrooms. Because guess what? It clears them all. So, if Yasuo's not on the screen and you have a minefield set up and you're trying to play behind it, keep in mind that they can clear it at any time with their Yasuo assist. And worse off, if they clear it, now you're sandwiched. So, it's what I mean of like understanding their option. So if Yasuo's on assist and you have your mushroom field out, don't stand in a range where a Yasuo assist will cross you up. If I'm here, for example, yes, it deletes them all, but I'm not getting sandwiched. Mushroom. And Yasuo's last stand assist is super obnoxious. The reason this move is so annoying is that it's instant. So like you're just minding your own business, living a happy Teemo life. You're just playing some neutral. You're like, dude, Yasuo's dead. This is so sick. And then he hits you full screen, and look at that. Look at that. Oh, minus 176. So they have all day to combo you for that. So the important things about Yasuo is understanding how to play against Windwall, understanding his options out of Windwall and how you can navigate them as Teemo, understanding his assist and like where he likes, like how far it goes and when they like to use it. What is happening? Okay. And being cognizant of his stance 2H, because his stance 2H is a really good no-fly zone. Ideally, you parry Yasuo assist, right? That's the ideal, but that's pretty hard. So, no worries if you can't. I really like darts versus Yasuo, but again, jump darts is good versus Yasuo, and you do kind of have to do it, but stance 2H can just like ruin your whole day. I'm trying to, right? A lot of instant float to bait out stance 2H. I do stuff like that. So overall, again, I'm not really sure who wins this matchup. Yasuo doesn't have the best anti-zoning stuff, so what he does, but not in Teemo sense, right? Because if I have the health lead and I'm sitting full screen and I got my fire bush and I'm sitting here doing this, yes, Yasuo can go Hasagi and be like, I'm not dealing with your zoning, cool, but that's not advancing the game in any meaningful way. So if the time runs out, I have a health lead, he doesn't, I win. So yeah, stuff like that.